We currently have 8 NHL teams that do not have a team captain. Today we're going to be taking a look at these 8 franchises, and I'm going to give you my opinions on who their next NHL captain should be. We'll discuss that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now, as I mentioned, today we're taking a look at the franchises in the NHL that do not currently have a team captain. We already had some who went without a captain for the past season, and because of movements through free agencies and trade, we've had some other teams that are now in the same predicament as well, bringing the total to 8 NHL teams that do not currently have a team captain. So we're going to go through all of these, and I'll give you my thoughts on who that player should be, and I'd love your feedback and thoughts as well. So leave some comments down below and let me know which players from these current franchises that you would select to be their next NHL captain, assuming they name one for the coming 2021 NHL season. Now, of course, there's no guarantee that all of these teams go ahead and name a captain, but it is expected that at least a few of these will do so before the 2021 NHL season gets underway. First up, we've got the Ottawa Senators. Now, the Senators have not had a captain for a couple of years now after trading away captain and defenseman Erik Karlsson to the San Jose Sharks a few seasons back. Now, of course, right now, if you look at this young franchise, they do have a mix of vets and young players, but to me, there's really only 2 candidates, and it comes down to Brady Tkachuk and Thomas Chabot. And in my honest opinion, I think Brady Tkachuk is the ideal team captain for this team, and if they don't name a captain for the coming season, to me, I think it makes sense that they would want to wait, get him locked up to a longer-term contract, get his commitment to the team and vice versa, and then as part of that next contract, give him the C on his jersey. We already had rumblings that the Senators would likely name a captain for the coming year, but then we heard Coach DJ Smith kind of dismiss the idea and say it was no means a guarantee, and it very well could go another season without a captain and have 2 or 3 or 4 alternates kind of rotating the A's throughout the season. And to me, the primary reason for that would be waiting on Tkachuk to get through and get that contract extension in place. I mean, Chabot could be a great alternate captain. He's a great leader, leads in ice time, but Brady Tkachuk leads in a lot of other ways. He works hard. He leads by example on the ice. He sticks up for his teammates. He chips in offensively. He's a total package player that really brings it all. And to me, I think he's a captain material written all over him. And it should really be one of their big priorities in the near future here. They could do it before the season starts, or if not early in the season. Just don't wait until the next offseason to get this kid locked up on a long-term deal. Get Eugene Melnyk to show him the money because he's well worth it, and slap that C on his jersey would be my opinion on that matter. Now, next up, we've got the Vegas Golden Knights, who have yet to name a team captain in franchise history after a few seasons in the NHL, and it is expected, according to, I believe their GM, Kelly McCrimmon, has made it known that they are likely going to name a captain for the coming year. Now, in my opinion, that captain should be former Senator Mark Stone. Mark Stone is a terrific leader on and off the ice. Really solid two-way play, one of the top, most underrated, underappreciated players across the NHL. His transition play and ability to steal the puck is second to none. A guy like Alex Pietrangelo comes in with wearing the C in St. Louis for many years. A great leader as well. But to me, I don't think you bring in a brand new player like that to the franchise and name him captain right off the bat compared to the guys that have been there fighting for the last few years. Stone has been there long enough now that he is that main player to slap that C on his jersey, in my opinion. You do have some other guys that could certainly wear an A and be considered, like Riley Smith, Jonathan Marchessault, to a degree, Max Pacioretty, who of course wore the C in Montreal for a while before he was traded to Vegas. But in my opinion, Stone, by all, is the top choice. The guy is just a total package, great player, leads by example, best celebrations in the league as well. The Mark Stone faces when he scores are just second to none. I love watching him play. Love watching him score because he's just so much fun and such a great leader. I think he'd be the perfect choice for the Golden Knights. Now, next up, we have the Minnesota Wild. Of course, they decided to part ways with longtime captain Mikko Koivu, who was an unrestricted free agent, and they decided that it was time to move on and head in a different direction. So, obviously, we saw GM Bill Guerin make several changes to this roster this past season between free agency and trades. It's going to be a very different looking team heading into next year. Somewhat of a reshuffle, kind of a rebuild, but not exactly in Minnesota. And to me, with Koivu not being in the picture anymore, you still have some great veterans there that are the ideal candidates And for me, I would take defenseman Ryan Suter. Now, as somebody who could kind of be a placeholder for a few years until his time is up and until one of the other younger wild players are, the clear-cut obvious choice to slap that on down the road. But Ryan Suter's been a long-time NHL player. He logs a ton of minutes, arguably their top minute muncher on that franchise. A very important piece back there. And I know he and Zach Parise signed those massive twin contracts when they joined the Wild through free agency a number of years ago. Parise's missed a lot of time. Obviously been injured a ton. They were hoping to have a championship in Minnesota by now. Things never worked out. But you can honestly say, for the most part, Ryan Suter's lived up to that deal and has been a great, real force back there on the Wild blue line. And to me, like I said, he may not be captain for long. It may only be 2 or 3 years or whatever until he's getting into his later 30s and ready to hand that over, because I believe he's like 35 now. But to me, he'd be a great placeholder while you're waiting for that next younger captain to develop and be the obvious choice. When you look through the roster, to me, really it's Suter's the obvious choice today, and we'll see how these other younger players can develop and take that over from him down the road. Now, next up, we have the St. Louis Blues, who obviously lost their captain to free agency to the Golden Knights, as we just mentioned here. Alex Pietrangelo was a great leader there, and now it's time for them to move that on to the next leader of the St. Louis Blues. And to me, the obvious choice, looking through that lineup, is Ryan O'Reilly. Ryan O'Reilly was a major force in that Stanley Cup victory 2 seasons back. Won the Selke, the Conn Smythe, just absolutely dominated. Solid two-way play. Works his tail off every shift, never takes a shift off. One of the better two-way forwards across the NHL. Great on face-offs. Really leads by example. And to me, was really kind of second in command on that team anyways after Petro. So to me, Ryan O'Reilly is the absolute perfect choice there. They do have some other guys who can be leaders as well. I know a guy like Braden Shannon or Jaden Schwartz do get some consideration. I'm not sure in the long-term future of Schwartz with his franchise. He could become a cap casualty here in the next year or so. Shen signed longer term, but I see O'Reilly being that clear-cut leader. Hands down the best leader on this franchise. Next up, we have the Detroit Red Wings. Like the Ottawa Senators, have gone a while without a team captain. And when I made this video about a year ago looking at teams that didn't have a captain then, of course, they were on this list and still are. And I selected the same player I'm going to pick today, and that's Dylan Larkin. I'm not sure why they haven't decided to slap the C on his jersey as of yet, but you go through this roster of Detroit, and really he's the only option, in my opinion, amongst all their players, but based on contract and how they play. He's really become a really solid two-way player, great skater, and one of the players who's been there long enough now, built up enough tenure with the team. Certainly a popular player with the fans, good in the locker room by the looks of things. And Dylan Larkin, to me, is the obvious choice to be the next captain, and long-term captain at that, for the Detroit Red Wings. Now, next up, we have the New York Rangers. The Rangers have not had a captain here in a little while either, and they certainly have changed a lot here in the past couple of years. They're certainly going through a stage right now where they came out of the rebuild into a potential playoff spot this year. It was a different format for the playoffs, which kind of helped secure their spot, but still, they're a team on the rise with a ton of great young talent, a lot of great prospects. They've drafted really well. They've had a little bit of luck in the draft lottery the last couple of years, getting Lafreniere and Kakko. But to me, the one player, at least kind of like I said for Suter, who's a bit of a placeholder for a few years, to wear that C would be Chris Kreider. Now, Kreider is a player who is the longest tenured member of the New York Rangers. He signed a long-term contract and decided to stay with the club not that long ago, so he's likely not going anywhere for some time. He's a good offensive producer, plays really hard, good power forward type of player, not afraid to get in the dirty areas and lead by example. So to me, I think he has all the right qualities to lead this Rangers franchise until one of their young studs are ready to take that C over down the road. Next up, we have the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, of course, we know Captain Justin Williams has decided to move on and announce his retirement, so that leaves a hole in the C department for the Hurricanes. Now, they do have a couple of different choices here they could go with, and I had a hard time deciding, but for me, it would either be defenseman Jacob Slavin or forward Jordan Staal, who was a former co-captain of this franchise before they named Williams captain on his own. Jordan Staal is a longtime NHL veteran, pretty good leader in his own right, and certainly deserves consideration. Maybe they go with co-captains. Maybe they go with one of these guys and the other one wears an A. Depends on how they want to go about it, but Slavin's got a good contract, plays a lot of minutes, another undervalued, underappreciated player, in my opinion, around the NHL, and somebody who I think could be a pretty solid captain for them heading into the future. I mean, obviously, you look to guys like Sebastian Aho to be a leader on the offensive categories, Andrei Svechnikov, but I think, to me, the person to wear the C is likely going to be Slavin, or unless you want to put it on Staal, like I said, just for maybe a couple years, until you see all these other younger members of the Hurricanes to kind of give them some time and decide who is the obvious choice. Because over time, it all kind of becomes obvious when you see how these guys play on the ice. Lastly, here we have the New Jersey Devils. The Devils obviously are rebuilding. Traded their captain, Andy Green, last year's NHL trade deadline. It's not really apparent yet if they will name a captain for the upcoming season. They may decide to wait a little bit longer because they have not been without a captain for too long. The player that sticks out to me as being the most obvious choice, and it may not be right away, but in the short term, would be Nico Hischier. Hischier's developing into being one of the better two-way players around the NHL, has that potential to be a really solid number 2 center, I think, behind Jack Hughes longer term. If Jack Hughes turns out to be the player that they felt they were getting when he was drafted, he should likely be the number 1 center, with Hischier playing that more defensive responsible number 2 slot. And so far in his young career, to me, he's demonstrating a lot of leadership capabilities. But like I said, I can see a scenario unfolding here where the Devils decide to wait. They do have some other veterans on the team who could take it on a short-term basis. But to me, I think you don't want to be changing the captaincy too often. So if they decide to wait, it might be that they want to give Hischier a little bit more time. But right now, to me, he'd be the obvious choice to hold that right for the New Jersey Devils. So those are my selections for the 8 vacant captaincies around the NHL. I'd love to know your thoughts and feedback, so make sure you leave some comments down below and let me know who you would select to be the next captains of these NHL franchises. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content. And give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.